So there's something that I've come to find in my journey of growth as a human on this planet, as a man on this planet, that we're always presented with certain scenarios, situations, confrontations, altercations, whatever shons there are, but we're always presented with them for a number of reasons. They're either there to teach us lessons, to give us the opportunity to learn lessons, to apply lessons from our shortcomings or our perceived failures in our past, or where we haven't been of the highest or the best. And what I wanted to share in this little video is a bit of a story about one such situation, which was not intentional to put myself into, but I want to give a lead up to this situation and what followed and how it was such a powerful experience for me. Very, very confronting. For some of you, you're going to have an absolute deep belly laugh, and I invite you to do so as well, because I can definitely look back on this and piss myself laughing. But when it comes to life, I really believe that we should take every opportunity for growth, for expansion. I think that's what we are. We are growing, evolving beings. So for a special edition of the podcast, the Wild Man Revolution podcast, it's story time. So I have traveled the world, first and foremost in search of ways, things, healers, people, coaches, mentors to be able to help me get ahead in life, succeed in life, feel better about myself, feel better about my results, get bigger results, all the things. And my journeys have taken me all around the world, and I've experienced different cultures, different methods, different philosophies, different theories. And I think some of my favorite experiences definitely have come from Peru in South America. Costa Rica and Peru. This one time that I'm going to share was in Peru. It was my last time there, and I've been so blessed and grateful enough to work with some amazing humans from all around the world, but specifically some shamans from Peru, working with plant medicines and energy and the like. And this last time was no different. I remember it really, really clearly. It was probably 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago, before all the lockdowns, before all that. So the timing was absolutely fantastic, and it was definitely something that was preparing me for what was to come. Not only has it been a challenging few years for a lot of people, I know I've had my challenge, but at the same time, it's proved to be very abundant. And I believe what I'm about to share has a lot to do with that. So I remember it was, we spent like nearly 10 days doing a special dieta, a diet before. So really cutting down on preservatives, foods that are not natural and organic, all the things leading into it. So that's interesting in itself. But this one time, the dieta was great leading into it. I was very good with that. But having to catch 5 flights from here in Australia to Peru, it was a bit of a mission. And I remember getting there, and then we had a few-hour car drive. Craziest fucking drivers in the world, driving around the edge of cliffs over there. Definitely an experience. So yeah, it took a period of time to get there, and by the time I got there, we were high up. I think it was like 30,000 feet or whatever where we were staying thereabouts, and very high up in the Andes Mountains in the Sacred Valley in Peru. I had headaches, so altitude sickness, and all the things. But got there and we were straight into a ceremony, which was very different. Straight into some ayahuasca, and I really, for me, it's really, really important to honor tradition and everything. But something just felt out of alignment with this. Was like, all right, there's a ceremony from the people that have been here. It's their last ceremony. We want yourself and a very good friend of mine, Tammy, to join in, because we were going to be co-facilitating and supporting for the next 10 or so days with everyone else on their own journey. I'd been in many ceremonies before, and this was like what I was seeing is some sort of evolution of what I could offer and add value with, but also I was always open to learn. But this first ceremony was pretty hardcore, as they are if you have experienced ayahuasca or plant medicine ayahuasca experience. This was pretty deep, and there was definitely plenty of purging. And for what followed over the next 10 or more days was a wonderful experience and amazing. Now, yes, I got a lot of growth out of that. I let go of a lot of stuff. There's no quick fix in that either. I know a lot of people are waking up these days and they're aware of things like ayahuasca and other plant medicines, and they see it as a fix. I've never attested to that, and I've experienced some of the toughest periods of integration after doing plant medicine, and have really needed a lot of support and a lot of help. And I think a lot of people in the world go into it thinking it's a fix and then everything's going to be better, and it's complete opposite, to tell you the truth. It can actually make things worse. But this experience was fantastic. There was a lot of purging, a lot of release, a lot of great memories, a lot of great insights and visualizations, and all the things that can come with. And I do believe one of my mentors always said that it's like 20 years of growth. Again, it would be great to be 20 years of growth, and then you probably need another dozen years of integration afterwards, but that's never spoken about. But I know this. But aside from some breakthroughs and everything there, the situation that presented to me wasn't at this particular lot of ceremonies and immersion and everything like that. It was actually what followed. Now, I was staying in an amazing village in the Sacred Valley of Peru. What was it called? It'll come to me somewhere through here. I know the first time I went to a place called Tarapoto, but this second time was very different. Pisac. Probably haven't pronounced that properly, but that's okay. Amazing little village, sort of really touristy. They had their market there every day and all that, and they had the ruins that you'd look up and you'd hike up to every day. And I was staying there with a couple of friends who attended the event with me as well. And we had planned to go on several hikes and do some more work, some more inner work, some of our own little personal ceremonies and offerings of our own as we hiked up to the temples and everything like that. And I did a phenomenal sound healing up there, and the energy was fascinating, and it was a great experience. But I remember, I think it was on the last day coming down. Now, we were working with a plant medicine after this called Washuma or San Pedro. Now, we were working with it. It was very intentional and very heart opening and very grounding. So it was very intentional, but we're working with that. And I remember coming back down on the way down, and I had the worst stomach ache ever. Like, it was terrible. And this was the start of what you could only describe as probably the messiest, most confronting 2.5 weeks that I think I've ever had in my life. Ever. Now, it could be a big call because, again, I've done a lot of things. I've been confronted with a lot of vulnerability, but I've intentionally put myself in situations, and even I call it my past life in my 20s and teens and everything, when I was partying and taking a lot of drugs and not looking after myself at all. There was a lot of confronting experiences there, but I usually backed away and ran away from them. But this one, I had no choice. I couldn't run away from it. So coming down the mountain, I had a gut ache and got back to our little hotel thing, and I just proceeded to empty out into the toilet out of my rear end, and it was not nice. I had just started having some really hardcore diarrhea. Now, again, for all of you, and I think most of us would have experienced this, we've had tummy bugs and all the things. Now, I'd already come off a few weeks of the dieta, like, I don't like calling it a diet, but the restricted eating to really allow the medicines to work with the body without a lot of the preservatives and a lot of the shit that's in our food. So I was pretty clean in my body after this period, a couple of weeks of doing this, and I still had to follow a strict dieta for the next month or so. So my go-to generally when I got diarrhea, I'm like, I'm going to eat some bread, I'm going to eat some bananas. Now, I could get some bananas over there, but I couldn't find any decent bread, but I was eating this, and usually that would clog me up, and away we go. And there's certain other foods that I normally have. But here I was in Peru. I don't know Spanish. I don't know the language very well. I've got some funny stories that I can share around my first experience in there in an airport, wandering around with my head in the air, not knowing even how to buy a drink. But back to it, when I looked at a menu over there, I had no fucking idea what any of the food was or anything, but I knew I had to get some solids into me. But it didn't matter what I put into me, it went through me. Now, I was there for another 3 days or something, and I managed well. I could eat, but I could make it to the toilet and all these things, but I was not feeling very well, and I was this constant flush out I was having, I'm like, wow, I must have let go of a lot from my body. My body's cleansing. It's like continuing to cleanse. And I hadn't experienced this before with ayahuasca. I usually purge in the ceremonies and usually look after myself and come out clean. And then I can slowly integrate back into the dieta and then back into my normal eating, which is super, super clean and healthy, I really feel. But then I had got to the point, it was the last night where we had to go into one of the cities there before we flew out, and stayed in there, staying with a friend. And it was probably one of the hardest experiences ever. I couldn't sit down. I'd sit in the toilet. Everything I'd have, water, drink, food, bananas, what, it doesn't matter, instantly go through me. And again, hearing this story, for some of you, you're probably already going, oh, and you're probably getting an idea of maybe what's to come. Now, I'm going to just shift for a moment. Now, I didn't know this until I got back to Australia a few days later, but it was actually after being in Australia for a few days that I feel like have diarrhea for too long, you can actually potentially die, because it really dehydrates you, and it takes a lot of things you need in your body out of you. And if you can't get it back to functioning normally, you could be in serious trouble. Now, I didn't know this at the time, but I was already feeling like, holy shit, I've got to go back to Australia tomorrow. I've got I think I had 4 or 5 flights. I think it was 4 flights back to Australia. A lot of them are very long. How am I going to do this? Now, even though I was thinking of this, I just thought, I'll be right tomorrow. The morning of flying out, I'll eat bread, I'll eat bananas, I'll eat solids. She'll be right. To start, it was okay. Got to the airport, had all my bags packed and everything. And even with the awareness that I probably wasn't right still, I didn't pack my on-flight luggage very well. But I was in and out of the toilets. I nearly missed my first flight. I was feeling very, very unwell. I was extremely tired because I couldn't sleep properly, because I couldn't settle. This was for a few days after now. And the first flight I had was was somewhere in Chile. Can't remember the name of the airport, but I got there and I was totally wrecked. Again, my body was still purging, and couldn't hold anything down, couldn't really find anything decent to eat at the airport, only because I didn't really understand a lot of it, and there was a lot of fast food. But I'm like, I had a few hours till my flight. A few hours, I'm going to find a quiet spot and just have a quick lay down. I'll be right. Now, all my luggage was packed and sent to Australia on all the flights. I never got a chance to go into my luggage or anything, and I just had the lightest carry-on. I had some bananas, some bread, but that was about all. So I found a quiet spot in the airport where there wasn't anyone around. It was like really quiet, and I laid down, and I'm like, oh, I should be all right, just having a quick nap. I'll be right. And laid down, and I don't know how long I was asleep, but I woke up, and this might make you absolutely laugh or sick of the stomach, but I woke up and I had a pool of fluid around my pants. And it didn't strike me straight away. I was tripping out a bit. I thought I'd spilled a drink or something. And it wasn't until I noticed there was so many people around me. Now, I don't know if they were looking or not. I had no idea. But there was so many people where I thought I'd fallen asleep quiet. It was chockers and busy. Now, I know people were looking at me, and I know they were, because it fucking stunk. And then it hit me. And I felt this rush come over me like I've never felt before. I was so shit scared of what people were thinking of me that moment. I was it wasn't panic. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know to move. I had a hoodie, a jumper. So I quickly grabbed that and put it in around me. And I didn't realize all my pants were really soaked. But shit had just flowed through me while I was asleep. Now, I've never had that happen before. And I was actually really concerned. I'm like, what's going on? Now, first thoughts were, okay, I'm going to go to the toilet, clean up. I'm going to go buy some clothes. Cool. Went and cleaned up, and it was a lot worse than I thought. Not only now were my pants, my boxers, and my socks and everything soaked. My hoodie was, and I was washing it all and trying to dry it. Everything was soaked. And this whole time, I was in this weird space. I was freaking out. I was in a country I didn't know the language. I didn't know the people. I didn't know anyone. I'd just been to Peru for a few weeks. I had no phone service. I was really, really internally freaking out and doing my best to keep it together on the outside. Now, I thought, all right, I'm going to wash myself. I've got to get a solution here. I've still got a couple of hours. I was in two minds. Do I get close, or do I actually find someone to talk to, like I don't know if there's a medic or if there's a doctor at the airport or something? And I proceeded to walk around looking for both. Not only did I have a saturated pants that still stunk, my senses were super active now because I'd cleansed my whole body for weeks and weeks with all the ceremonies, with all the dieta and that. But I know I still sunk, and I must have been bright red. Now I've got tan skin, but I can guarantee I was bright pink walking around this airport. And not only couldn't talk language, some could talk broken English, and I was looking for two things: a doctor or a medic or something like that, some sort of something like that, because I was actually really concerned that I'd had something that it was making me extremely sick, or I got some sort of bug or whatever it was. And the other thing was some clothes to wear. I couldn't find either. I could not find either. I proceeded to buy some sort of wraparound head thing, which I was asking for draw pins and nappy pins. I was going to make myself a nappy. That's what I was going to do. I had nothing. I couldn't find anything. So I had this bright idea. I'm going to make myself a nappy and pull the pants over it and just hope like fuck that no one sits next to me on the plane, or the smell wasn't as bad as I thought. I also got some, I think it was deodorant. Again, it was in a different language and I had no idea what was going on. I got some of that. I'm like, I'm just going to keep caking this on. And people can judge me for smelling like smelling a brute or whatever the fuck I was putting on. But I went and did my best to make a nappy. It didn't work. I literally had to shove toilet paper up my ass. And my next flight was my longest flight from Chile to, I think it was Melbourne in Australia. No, I had to go Sydney, Melbourne. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had to go Sydney, Melbourne. Either way, I still had a couple of flights to go, but this one was the longest. And after what I'd experienced for the last few days, bugger all sleep, running to the toilet constantly, shitting myself in the airport, I've never had so much inner stuff come up in my life. I've never been confronted by something so unique. And I go back to what I started this little video, this little podcast with. I truly believe it's the situations that we're presented with that can teach us the most. Especially the ones that sort of blindside us and we're not expecting, because then we don't have control over them. And I had no choice but to have such trust that I was going to be okay. Not only that I was going to make it back to Australia, that I didn't shit myself on the plane, that I didn't create a scene, whatever was going on in my head. I didn't have this much stuff come up through all my multiple ceremonies and ayahuasca and all the other plant medicines. I didn't have it, although there was a lot of vulnerable moments. And I was like, I even set myself on the plane. I wasn't going to go to sleep. I think it was like a 15 or a 16-hour flight. So it wasn't a short flight. And I set the intention, I'm not going to sleep. I'm going to just watch movies. I'm going to stay awake. I'm going to write in my book. I'm going to and I just fought to stay awake. I don't know if it was the best strategy. I didn't know. And it wasn't just I was afraid of like crapping my pants again. I was looking around at people that were noticing me. Again, I was really, really scattered at this point. Now, I got on the plane and I sat down, and the universe may have been looking after me. No one was sitting next to me. I got 3 seats. All right. But then my head's like, should I go to sleep? No. So I had this in a battle the whole way, and I had to keep going to the toilet and literally shoving toilet paper on my butt. Again, this is probably gross for some of you, but I reckon it's a powerful story. It definitely was a big shift I had from it. But I ended up getting back to Australia, and then I had to wait for hours for another flight in an airport. At least then I could get some clothes. But little did I know that I had fuck all money anyway. Now, I didn't realize this in Chile, but I probably wouldn't have been able to buy anything then, because I literally spent most of my money just to get to Peru in the first place. And it was actually a tough time for me in business, me and my wife, my queen, because we were really coming to a point where we were starting to see that a lot of things were out of alignment. I'd made some big calls on my life. I'd decided after Peru that I was finishing coaching for a certain company who had really, really been a big part of my journey, and it was really hard to decide on that. We had, I'm just thinking, we had River. I'm just thinking if he was born or not then. I'm pretty sure he was. Yes, he was. He absolutely was. So this is how much, how big a time in my life. He was a little baby, and we were staying at a friend who was very supportive in Melbourne at the time, and we had an event to go to, and we got back to Melbourne. All these things were running through my head. But I got to I think it was Sydney, and I didn't have enough money to buy any spare clothes. And then I started freaking out again because I'm like, all right, I got to get to Melbourne, but I've got like a 2 hour trip to get to where I am. And I had to do some chasing up and gathered a few $100s from clients that owed me little payment plans and all this. And I was really, really sitting with the fact that I really had taken a big leap of faith to go at this time with what was going on in my world. And I trusted that things were there to clear out, and so I can upgrade and whatever was my intent. But I knew that what was happening at the moment was probably the deepest purge ever. I was very, very sick. I was very sick. I'd lost a lot of weight. I ended up making it back to our friend's place. She was amazing and supportive, and she was there. Didn't realize what I was going through because I didn't know how to explain how sick I was and how sick I'd been. I was partially laughing at it by then because I was like relieved to get back to Australia. I still had paranoia coming up, and it was like all these events from my past when I was paranoid. So many things were coming up for me. But even going to stay at our friend's place, I didn't want to sleep because I was afraid I would shit the bed. I was in constant fear and anxiety for a bit. And it's when I started to look into it, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to have to go see someone. I'm going to keep getting food into me. I know what food to eat in Australia. I'm conscious of the dieta, but I had to get myself well again. And this went on for a few more days. It was a total of, I think, 14 or 15 days. I had this really, really hardcore diarrhea. I was very, very unwell. It was a tough time. In that time, when I got back, I went to a 3 or 4 day event in Melbourne. I traveled again. I had my newborn son, River, there. And that was being a new dad, going to Peru while my wife was at home processing her own shit, while I basically perceived to have abandoned her and her reality. And we've done a lot of work on it since then. So there was so many moving parts at this time, were so confronting. Now, of course, I got better and I got well. Of course I did. And I had a really deep, dark 6 months. I was up and down. My body took a lot to integrate. I really stuck at my practices to realize that they weren't really providing me what I needed. And I really needed to dig in and trust. Whatever I'd let go in Peru, whatever I'd cleanse, whatever was going on in my world, whatever I needed to still let go of, it was unfolding, and it wasn't a nice time. At the same time of realizing my business was out of alignment in its current form, up and down of income, not being really clear on my purpose, again, making big decisions to move forward without real clarity. I've always known my purpose and mission and purpose to help men. That's always been very, very clear. But at this time, I was really doubting myself a lot because I didn't feel good. I didn't feel confident. I lost a lot of weight. Did realize a lot of things in that period, of course, but I look back when I really started to piece everything together and really got my health in order, and then really got my mindset. I was disciplined with everything. I didn't stop doing the work. It was just like this extended dark night of the soul. And got to about 6 months, and I had a few realizations and really implemented a few things and stuck to my discipline and shifted a few things up and really started to feel good again. And it was about 6 months later, I was sitting there and just thinking back. I was just thinking and I was reminiscing, and I'm like, I reckon with all the work that I've done, all the people I've worked with, the vulnerable moments, speaking on stage, speaking at events, when I was participating or when I was like facilitating or whatever, I'd never had a period or a time of a few weeks where I have been tested so much, where I've had so much shit come up for so long and not known what to do, not known who to talk to. People I told, they would either laugh at me or be like, what's going on? They didn't understand, and they were no fault of their own. There was no real support there because it was like this unique experience for me. And I feel what I gained from that, it was really interesting. Here I am investing tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, lots of time, lots of flights, time away from family, new family, and doing all these crazy things. And I'm like, the one thing that's taught me probably the most about vulnerability, about trust, about listening to my body, about, I don't know what else about, but that was not something I paid for, not something that I intended to do, not something an environment I put myself into to experience. It was something that was random. It was a situation that was presented to me to have me really confront a lot of things. I had a lot of dark stuff come up in that few weeks, a lot of dark stuff. Now, yes, a lot of it would have been the result of the ceremonies and the plant medicines and the work the shamans do, the energetic work. But at the same time, it happened away from all the support of people. It happened mainly where I was on my own, in places where I felt uncomfortable, where I felt isolated, where I didn't understand languages and stuff. And I really, truly believe it's times like that in our lives. Now, it mightn't be extreme where you shit your pants for 2 weeks straight. But I really believe it's times like that that really, really have us ground in, and really have us look at life in a different way. And that made me look at life in a different way. It had me appreciate in time my body a lot more. It had me appreciate the work that a lot of people do supporting other people, whether it's in the medicine journeys and ceremonies or whether it's just in the work. It had me drop my ego. I literally cracked it wide open, and definitely showed me a lot that I didn't have a lot of things in order. I didn't have a lot of things sorted. A lot of things were out of my control, and I had a lot of attachments to things. And again, it's the situations that are presented in his life that are there to stretch us, that are to have us expand. And sometimes they're fucking scary. Sometimes they're messy. I think this was messier than the most. I had a lot of friends in the personal growth space go, "You've got to do this as a TED talk." They thought it was funny as here I am, like going and doing heaps of ceremonies and having the shifts and the breakthroughs, but the biggest ones are coming from an experience that life presented to me outside of that. And I share this with you in here as a video. I'm going to be doing some more short videos like this, videos and podcasts with little stories that I've got from my journey, because there's some shit we can't buy in a course too. There's some shit we can't find from someone peddling online that we think is going to fix us or fix our scenario. It's always going to be the role we play in that. And I guarantee you, you're going to grow the most. You're going to build the most resilience. You're going to need to be the most courageous in times that are presented to you that catch you off guard, that have you feel maybe helpless or isolated or a bit lost. And they're going to teach you the most if you stick at it, if you ground in, if you trust yourself, and if there's support there, you got to ask for it. So I hope you like this little story, guys. There's lots to take from it. Listen to it a few times. The way we work, it's like when we watch a movie a few times. Watch it once and you think you've watched it all, and you watch it a second time and you pick up on things like, "Oh, I didn't notice that from before." You watch it a third time and you're catching up on all these things you didn't notice. This little story is loaded with some little bits of gold nuggets, guys. I encourage you to record. If you've got anything to comment, please share it below, wherever this is being shared, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on the socials. Put some comments on there. Any takeaways I would love to hear. And even some of your stories where you've been presented with a situation, a scenario that has tested you beyond anything you could have imagined. Anyway, this has been a special edition of the Wild Man Revolution podcast. Please tune in for more with some amazing guests coming on the way, and some more videos like this. Bye-bye.
I can hear the demons call when they do what they do, and now I feel like taking off, find a place where of you, the